The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Good morning, everybody. We seem to have a little bit of interference here. I don't know if you all can hear that.
Enable audio controls. Please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. If you do not have a PIN, just press pound or hash.
If someone could mute themselves, I would appreciate
webinar.
that.
You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Wow.
Good morning, everybody. Christine Westerland here with the Illinois Association of Community Action Agencies. We're going to get started here on our webinar. We have a great panel for you this morning. If you have unmuted yourself, it sounds like it's gone away. I was going to ask you if you would mute yourself.
This line cannot be unmuted. The moderator has muted the conference.
Again, I'm hearing some interference. If someone could please mute themselves. Thank you. Good morning. Well, we're getting off to an interesting start. So I am so happy today that we have with us a great panel, and we're going to explore the Certified Community Action Professional Certification. We have Charles McCann with us today, and we have a great panel. Let me go ahead and just get the slides started so we can see.
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Again, I'm getting a bit of feedback here, and I can't control it on my side. I apologize. Just looking here quickly. All right. Mary, would you be willing? It looks like if you could mute yourself, please, I would appreciate it.
I am trying my best to do whatever I'm trying to do here.
Let me see if I can't do it for you. There we go. Okay. Mary, when it's your turn, I'll make sure you're unmuted. So we always like to start our webinars by reciting the promise of community action. So if you would please, with me, say this along with me, that community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. Thank you. So today we are going to dive into Ccap. We want to encourage all of you to become Ccaps. We're fortunate enough to have Charles McCann with us today. He has steered currently we have 47 Ccaps in Illinois. We have had some that leave the network. And with us today, Charles will discuss the rationale and value of becoming a Ccap, but we also have 4 distinguished Illinois Ccaps with us. Mary Lockhart-White, who is from the executive director at the Community Action Partnership of Lake County. And we really have to give a shout out to Mary. She is the one who launched this discussion with Charles, I believe at a national conference 11 or 12 years ago, if I remember correctly. And so really, we have to really acknowledge, Mary, your work on behalf of Ccap, and really because we have so many in Illinois now. We have also with us today Lena Hicks. She is the executive director of WADI. We have Mindy Browning. She is the LIHEAP and IT coordinator for IRBA. And we have Connie Jordan, who is one of our newest Ccaps in Illinois, and she is the Head Start director for CEFS. So without much further ado, Charles, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christine, and good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here this morning and talk about Ccap. I appreciate your attendance and your interest in checking out the program. What I'd like to do with the time I have is really talk about 2 things. As Christine said, the rationale for the program. why even have a Ccap program, and then to outline a few of the very basic values of Ccap, values to individuals and values to agencies. First, the rationale. Why have a certification program, a Ccap program, certified community action professional? I can think of 3 reasons. 1, it's good for those we serve. 2nd, it's good for our community action movement. And 3rd, it's good for you personally. First, it's good for those we serve. My guess would be, if I asked for a show of hands of how many work for an agency that has an agency audit, you'd all raise your hands. If I ask you how many people here care about the poor, I'll bet you all raise your hand. I'll bet if I ask how many that have the audit have that audit done by a CPA, a certified public accountant, I bet everybody raised their hand. As a matter of fact, if the person doing the audit wasn't a CPA, the people to whom you have to present the audit probably wouldn't accept it. You probably wouldn't have any, you probably have somebody else doing it. What does the C in CPA convey, certified? What does that convey to you about that person? They're knowledgeable, competent, up to the task. They're able to do their work and do it well. They've demonstrated to peers certain proficiency in their ability to do the work. So a final question then would be, don't you think the poor you say you care about deserve as much? So it's good for those we serve. It's good for our community action movement. At the national meeting in 1974, by now we're 10 years into community action, at the national meeting, someone said, and how many have been here the entire 10 years? Everybody stood up. 1984. And how many have been here the entire 20 years? Everyone stands up. 1989, the 25th, big 25th birthday celebration for community action. It was at that big Hilton Hotel in Washington up on Connecticut Avenue. How many have been here? It was a big deal. It was a big deal. The Johnson daughters came. It was a big deal. The architects of the programs were there. And someone said, and how many have been here the entire 25 years? Everybody's still standing up. But if you look around, those of us standing up, you look around, and our hair isn't the same color as it was when we started standing up the years before. And some of us aren't there anymore. You begin to have a conversation. You know, community action succession was supposed to be growing replacements from within. It would come up through the agency, and then at their time would there be succession. Well, as you might suspect from the leadership being there 25 years or more, some of the people that were coming up through the ranks became impatient. They were tired of waiting for their turn, and they went elsewhere to get their turn. Well, there's spots, eventually there is movement, and those spots aren't just left empty, they're filled. I call them parachuters. They parachute into community action from somewhere else. What do they know about community action? Nothing. If they parachute into Head Start, they get the Head Start orientation. If they parachute into weatherization, they get the weatherization orientation. Or to LIHEAP, they get that orientation. When do they ever get community action orientation? They weren't getting it. And my colleagues at that time, and I have a conversation year two, wouldn't it be terrible if we who've invested our lives in community action, who care about community action, who love community action, had done so little to assure succession that the community action movement as we know it dies with us? And that was kind of the thought beginning of the Ccap program, where you're going to grow some replacements. What do I want to see in my replacements? Well, naturally, I want them to be just like me. That'd be the perfect replacement, right? By that, I mean, I want my replacements to be guided and inspired by community action's rich history. And I certainly want my replacements, my successors, to embrace community action vision, values, and ethics. Now, the parachuters didn't arrive empty-handed. They came with their MBAs and their management credentials and their leadership credentials. And you say, well, sure, you know, I want that too. And finally, a person parachuting into community action looks around. It'd be easy for them to think that community action was about delivering services to the poor. And that isn't about community action. That's not what it's about at all. What's community action about, both in theory and by statute? Poverty. Eliminating the paradox of poverty in the midst of plenty. What's the CSBG Act say? You're going to have a measurable and potential impact on the causes of poverty conditions. Poverty. So I think my successors, my replacements, need to know a thing or two about the theory of poverty. And those 5 knowledge sets and skill sets have formed a knowledge base, a body of knowledge that one must demonstrate to their peers they're proficient in the knowledge and the practice in order to become certified. It's a peer-driven program. Those 5 knowledge sets or skill sets are community action history, vision, values, ethics, management, leadership, and the theories of poverty. So I don't know who's going to lead community action, who'll be leading community action in the year 2040, 20 years from now. I know it won't be me. In the year 2040, I'll be 97. I'm 77 now, so I'll be 97. It won't be me, but we're trying to grow some successors that have those knowledge sets and skill sets. I don't know who they're going to be, but I do know who has stood up and said, I want to prepare myself for community action leadership for the remainder of the first half of this century. And it's the Ccaps. So it's good for those we serve, and it's good for our community action movement. But it's you personally. Personally. I have a book by Edwin Cobb, forwards by Cable Brand. No Ceasefires, the War on Poverty in Roanoke Valley. If community action can work in Northern Virginia, it can be made to work anywhere. And there's a very nice quote in here. There was apparently an early worker in community action named Bristol Hardin in Virginia. And according to this book, Bristol Hardin wasn't really a church-going person. But when community action was young, was new, he was asked to be in the pulpit of the various congregations in his community and deliver the Sunday message. And according to this book, he had a standard message that he gave to this and to other groups. This has quotation marks around it. Today, I'm going to do something some of you might consider divinely inspired. Today, it seems fashionable not to believe in miracles. Of course, this is nonsense. As proof of a recent miracle, I submit to you that in spite of my conversion In spite of my recently inspired revelation, I remained in the Episcopal Church and stand before you as an Episcopalian who's concerned with your souls. And I'm here right now to offer you the same means of salvation by joining my church. It's a comparatively new denomination which offers humankind the opportunity to put into action all those pious, holy, and humanitarian cliches we've only been mouthing through the centuries. The name of this denomination is the Judeo-Christian Holy Catholic Protestant Evangelical Ecumenical Reformed Community Action Program Church. So I guess he tried to get it all in. But think about what he's saying. How many professions do you know of that allow the practitioner the opportunity to put into action all those pious, holy, and humanitarian cliches he'll been mouthing through the centuries? Community action gives you that opportunity. It's a marvelous opportunity. It's a marvelous opportunity. And all you have to do is pick it up and hold it close to you. That's all you have to do. I think the biggest difference between my generation of leadership and the current generation of leadership and the people who are in community action now, and I don't really know, I haven't taken a survey, I've talked to a few people, but I don't really know. But think about how you came to community action. I came to community action because I was called literally by President Kennedy. I see community action as a calling. But if you came to community action because you answered a job announcement in the newspaper, you might see community action as a job. Big difference between a calling and a job. Big difference. If you see the work as a calling, all those problems with the job go away. Doesn't pay enough. Hey, if you're in community action for the money, might as well move on. Not because we don't want you, it's because you won't be happy here. The work's hard. This is hard work. It's hard work. So better to see it as a calling. One of the things that I have observed, and one of the things that I want to be present for, and that we're offering study groups for, I have noticed that somewhere along the line in the Ccap process, the Ccap journey, those taking that journey become transformed. They're transformed both personally and professionally. They're transformed from seeing community action as a job to seeing it as the calling that it is. I don't know where you are in your transformation, but I want to be there and help you complete that journey. This year, the national conference is going to be virtual, the first ever virtual conference. So people like Connie and her colleagues in the class of 2020, I won't get to queue up and literally shake their hand as they go through the line and they get their pin and they get the plaque and they get their picture taken. But when they come through the line, I'm a commissioner. Commissioners get to be in the line and welcome the new Ccaps. People come through with tears in their eyes. It's emotional. When you complete your journey, you'll find out. And when I see those tears in the eyes of the new Ccaps, I say to myself, their transformation is complete. They get it. They get community action. They really get community action. So rationale, three things. It's good for those we serve. It's good for our community action movement. And it's good for you personally. I'd like to go on. I don't want to monopolize the time. I want to finish pretty quickly here, but I do want to touch on some of the values of Ccap. What's the value of Ccap? I'm in Missouri. My home region's Region 7, and there are 56 CAPs in Region 7. And several years ago, we did a survey in Region 7 to see if we could determine if there was any value to Ccap. And we found 4 values to individuals and 4 values to agencies. First, personal horizons were broadened. Ccaps knew not only their part in community action through their particular program, they knew what other programs were and what they all did and how it all fit together, and that had strengthened their commitment. After all, isn't that what you want? Why would you not want that? Their personal orientation to community action was improved. They were inspired and guided by community action's rich and powerful history. They did embrace community action vision, values, and ethics. They were proficient in the knowledge and practice of traditional management skills and positive leadership skills, and they were aware of the various theories of poverty. These are good things. The third, their behavior is guided by the Community Action Code of Ethics. If you haven't seen the Community Action Code of Ethics, how do you judge the difference between right and wrong so far as community action is concerned? And Ccaps know. Deborah Jackson's where I first heard the quote. She's a Ccap, was in Riverside, California. If ethics aren't being discussed, they probably also aren't being practiced. So Ccap's behavior is guided by the Code of Ethics, and Ccaps are discussing the ethics. And finally, the personal affirmation was achieved. That's that business about knowing they've stepped forward to lead community action the remainder of the first half of this century. And they've made that transition, that transformation in their personal as well as their professional lives. Why would you not want that for the people in your agency? 4 values to individuals, 4 to agencies. Now, these just aren't any agencies. These are what we identified as Ccap-led agencies. I think there's 54 or 56 agencies in Region 7. There are 19 in Missouri. I think there's also 19 in Iowa, 5 or 6 in Nebraska, and the remainder in Kansas. And in those 50-some agencies, a dozen were identified as Ccap-led agencies, meaning the executive director and all or most all the management staff were Ccaps. And in this study, we wanted to see if we could spot some differences in those agencies. What made them different from all the other agencies? And we found 4 things. First, the Ccap-led agencies had remained in community action agency mode. They had not slid into social service agency mode. And being realistic, once you've fallen into social service agency mode, we're done for. There's lots of social service agencies out there already. All of them think they're better than we are and don't like it much that we have dibs on some of this money and they don't. Now, these agencies that were remaining in community action agency mode, they were doing it because they were making conscious distinctions between public charity, human development, and anti-poverty. We claim to be an anti-poverty network. Well, the Ccap-led agencies were doing anti-poverty programs. They knew that difference. That's a good thing. The second, in the Ccap-led agencies, a depth of leadership was assured because there was a cohesive leadership core not centered on a single individual. And this leadership core in the Ccap-led agencies were composed of a number of individuals who understood not only management and leadership concepts, but also community action concepts And in that way, succession is addressed, and the movement doesn't die with old graybeards like me. The third community action purpose is the unifying element. In undergraduate freshman sociology, my instructor, Marion Harvey, taught that cultures, movements, these things are held together by consensus on core values and overt compliance with the norms. Well, in the Ccap-led agencies, there was consensus among the staff that the purpose of community action is to eliminate poverty, not only through the empowerment of individuals and families, but also through the revitalization of communities. They knew they were called a community action agency for a reason. And finally, community action orientation and training was provided. And through the Ccap process, staff in Ccap-led agencies had received an appropriate corollary, a community action corollary for all that program-specific orientation and training provided by individual funding sources. And the subtlety to that was, the subtlety is almost better than the finding. The subtlety was, and it has to do with loyalty. In Ccap-led agencies, loyalty was to the agency and to community action rather than to a program and funding source. Face it, if you're an executive director and you have a program director that thinks they're working for the regional office, you've probably got a problem. They didn't have those problems in Ccap-led agencies. So I appreciate this short half hour to visit with you and talk a little bit about the rationale for Ccap and the value for Ccap. So thank you, Christine, for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Charles, thank you so much. And as always, I always learn something from you every time. And so thank you for that as well. We're going to go in order as it appears on the slide. So Mary Lockhart-White from the Community Action Partnership of Lake County. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Mary.
Oh, I'm so happy. Good morning to all. Do you hear the echo, Christine, or is it just me?
There is a bit of an echo, and I'm going to mute myself. That may help.
Okay. I don't think so. I wonder if, is it something I'm doing?
How close are you? Are you using just the microphone on your computer or laptop?
Yes.
And actually now your echo was not as bad as it was. What I'll do is I'm going to mute you briefly and then unmute you. Okay, Mary, you're unmuted again.
Did you hear you when you talked?
I did.
So you have the echo as well.
Well, the echo is coming through on the speaker.
Okay. Well, I'll try to keep my comments brief, and I apologize to everyone. I'm not really sure what's going on. So, Charles, I tried my best to be a Ccap with this, but I guess this isn't working.
You're a Ccap, Mary.
But thank you, Christine, for the opening comments that you made in reference to supporting the Ccap process, and I definitely am a supporter of that. I had the privilege, just to give you a little background, I had the privilege of meeting Charles in Syracuse, New York. And that was during the time that the state, under Gray Warner's leadership with DECIO, was giving scholarships to those that wanted to be go through the Ccap process. So I had the opportunity to go there and be part of the Ccap University, I think it was, wasn't it, Charles? With Evelyn, with the state of New York.
Yes.
And it was really great. we shared, and Charles shared the vision, mission, and values of community action. It was my second year in community action, so therefore it was very enlightening for me. I came from the corporate environment, so saying that this was a new world, but I knew that I wanted to do something different than just get a paycheck and come to work every day and really have no fulfillment at the end of the week. So when I moved over to community action, it was definitely a new world. And by going through the Ccap process my second year on the job, it was gratifying because I really understood that, as Charles talked about, it's a calling, it's not just a job. I relate it to my church work, actually. It's really a mission and the things that we do to help people. Looking at, referring back to what Charles said about comparing us to like a CPA, we're certified, and I think we should be proud when we use that word, certified community action professionals. Some of the experiences I had in my community, once I put the CCAP behind my name, they would say, well, what's that mean? I said, well, that means I'm a certified community action professional. So my community started reaching out to me when they wanted to know certain things about low-income people, about engaging the population that we serve, about legislative issues, and about other issues that affect the population that we serve. So that has been truly gratifying to me. It has been gratifying to me to mentor those that come on to community action and look at going through the Ccap process. So I want you to really think about what you're doing and think about what Ccap really means. It really sets you apart. It means, like any other certification, you are a professional in your field. And that's important. It's important for people to recognize us as being professionals in our field. So those are my remarks. I am here to help any way that I can. I serve as I believe a mentor and a coach if necessary. I have done some proctors. I will tell you this little story. I had the privilege to proctor Dr. Delitso Solomoya when he had his Ccap in Lake County, along with another director out of Milwaukee. And I had planned, after we finished the test, I was going to take them out to lunch and we were just going to celebrate. And when they finished, they said, no, I'm going home. I guess got to wait for my results. But, and after they got the results, they really felt that it was a process that was well worth going through. And the stress that they put themselves through was not necessary, because we have to have confidence that we know what we're talking about. And that's really what professional will do. So that's what I have to say. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Charles, for all the work that you do. Thank you, Christine, for all the work that you do. And congratulations to those that that's taking the first step to be on this video and webinar. And I look forward to talking with you.
Lena?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good morning. I want to share a little bit about my experience as a Ccap. As I went in for my Ccap, I had just stepped into an executive director position at Wabash Area Development, and Christine Westerlund was the one who contacted me and asked if I was interested. At that point, I was a little bit nervous about Ccap, especially walking into such a new position with a lot of responsibilities. Things were in turmoil at that point with some of our state grants and the things that we're having to deal with. So I really didn't feel like I had the time. I was very nervous about going in and taking the classes. Luckily, Christine convinced me to go ahead and pursue my Ccap. She had told me that if you don't do it, Now there's never going to be a good time, so you might as well just do it. So at that point, I went ahead and signed up. I got 2 other people in the agency to sign up to take the Ccap classes with me, and now I can say it was one of the best moments in community action that I have had. The training was exceptional. It helped me to grow as an executive director. It helped me in the community as far as being able to recognize that we're not here for just one program. You know, Wabash Area Development is not Head Start. We are not weatherization. We are not CSBG. So it's really helped me to lead the agency with a holistic approach. We're able to better function with our strategic plan. We find out what's needed in the community instead of just providing services. You know, it's so important now that we work at the community development and our staff development. And the staff development in particular is something that I've noticed in the last several years in community action. There have been a lot of changes. And as Charles said before, with people going out of community action and retiring, I can say with my personal experience, I moved into the executive director position, and a lot of the executive directors that I have known had started to retire. So I really did not know who to turn to when I had questions, if I needed somebody to lean on, you know, any guidance that I might have. I just didn't know who to contact. So when I enrolled in the Ccap classes, it really gave me a sense of unity with the Community Action Network. I learned who the new leaders were. I learned who my resources were. I know who I can talk to now, and other people who are knowledgeable in the field. So knowing that has helped immensely, because I am a big proponent for unified community action movement. You know, I cannot do anything alone as one agency, nor can you. So I would encourage you to do Ccap, because not only are you going to develop your skills, you're going to be able to develop the skills of your agency. Right now, we have 2 directors at Wabash Area Development who are Ccap along with myself, and we have 1 going in this year and hopefully 2 next year once they get the requirements met. I think that will strengthen our agency. I see a whole new passion out of these people. They learn what community action is instead of just Head Start. You know, Ccap gives them the orientation, it gives them the skills, it gives us the knowledge of what happened in community action and what we need to continue to do and work towards. You know, there was a lot of hard work, and I know Charles elaborated on this a lot. You know, community action is not easy. People have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the work that we do and making the strides that we have. So as a community action professional, I know it is my responsibility, as well as other Ccaps and other community action professionals, to know that we have to be the ones picking up the fight and being the ones to actually move forward with the community action movement and help fight poverty. So I think that's about all I have. I don't want to take too much time, but Charles and Christine, thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody for listening.
Thank you, Lena. Appreciate that. And I was in encouraging you to get your Ccap, I was actually quoting Charles. There's no time like now to get your Ccap. Charles, you said that to me many times.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
Next up, we have Mindy Browning. She is the LIHEAP and IT coordinator for the Embera River Basin Agency. Mindy.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I was going to try to put my camera back, and now it's being stubborn. There
you are.
It is. Yeah, so I'll try to. I have another camera, and it didn't work right, so we're doing okay. Good morning, and yes, whenever Charles was talking about the bit of if you just answer a job ad in the paper, that it's probably just a job. I'm one of those very fortunate people that I answered a job ad in a paper, and 6 weeks into it, I realized I found my calling. And that I said, people go their whole lives wondering what their purpose is in life. And I said, I got to tell an 85-year-old customer's son the other night that, you know, my purpose in life is to help people. And if we're not getting that done well enough, then we need to change what we're doing. And so I found my purpose whenever that I started working for IRBA. And I decided after that, something happened like 6 weeks in, and I was an assistant in an outreach office and doing the paperwork, doing the applications. And there was something, and I can't even remember exactly what it was, but it was really not fair. And oh, I do remember we used to only be able to help with LIHEAP. Whenever we ran out of certain funds, we could only help those we had already helped. So if you hadn't gotten in for help earlier that year and now you needed help, you couldn't have any help. But if you had been in earlier, you could. That has since changed, and that's great. But that was one of those first things that happened, and it's like, I want to change that. I don't want to just do the application. I want to change that. And so I started taking classes at our local community college for social services, and I got disoriented really quickly with it because I found out that a lot of those psychology classes and all that blame poor people for being poor. And it's like, oh no, it's not their fault. We need to find the reason that there's poverty, and we need to challenge that all the time. And so whenever that Ccap started coming into my vocabulary, it's like, I think this is where I wanted. This is what I wanted to do, and what I needed to really study what we do and why we do it. And whenever I started working, of course, I was shown, here's our applications, this is what we do. I was shown how, I wasn't shown why. And so one of the things that I have learned since I've been a Ccap, every person that is under me in this agency gets a history lesson, and they understand why we do what we do. And I want them to understand it from that perspective, that there is a rich history there, and we've got to keep that history alive. And I've had the pleasure of getting to help out one of Lena's new LIHEAP, her new LIHEAP coordinator. And that was one of the things that I did. It's like, okay, we're going to have a history lesson about community action because you need to understand the why. And I'm one of those people that firmly believe that if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat mistakes. And so we learn from our mistakes, we move on. And one of the other things I really learned through that part of it, through the history part, was sometimes you've got to fight for what you want. And you don't just let everybody say this is the rules and this is how it is. We've had a lot of times in our history that we've really had to buck up and fight to keep our funding. And now, you know, whenever you're going forward, that's something you've got to do. You've got to be the voice for those people that are living in poverty, because sometimes you're the only voice they've got. And so you've got to be that voice. And I think that through the community action movement, as Charles was saying, that orientation of telling more people about why we do what we do, not just how, is very important. I had an instance this week that there was something going on with our PIP program, and I didn't like it. And because of the code of ethics tells us that we need to be that voice for our people, our customers. And there was something that to me seemed very unfair. And I'd said something and nobody else said anything about it. And I was like, okay, am I right or am I wrong? And should I just keep my mouth shut? And then I remembered, no, you should not keep your mouth shut. If you're wrong that it isn't unfair, then they'll point that out to you. But you need to go to bat for your customers. And right now I got the state looking at something. And so I'm pretty happy about that, because they listen, and because I said something. It's not the fact that, you know, you don't have because you don't ask. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to reach out and tell people what you see. And I think my Ccap has given me the courage to do that. And it was as Mary was talking about Delitzo, I don't think, and this is one thing that everybody that's a Ccap, you'll hear it along the way as you start your journey. Nobody ever thinks they pass that test. Nobody. Right. The day that you find out you pass that test, I said, I was on my lunch hour whenever that I got the email from Jim, and it popped up on my phone, and I just saw it. All I saw was congratulations, and I screamed. It's like, okay, guys, the Head Start was here. Most of our staff was at lunch, and it's like they came running down the hallway. Are you okay? I said, I'm a Ccap. And so I said, it is personally, it is very rewarding to know what you know. And I think Ccap, as Charles was talking about that part, about the personal part of it, it did change me. I think it made me understand a lot more about myself and about the fact that I was put on this earth to help people, and that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And along that way, Lena and I had class together, and so we became very close during that. We became friends, and we know we can lean on each other. And we're seeing some people that are coming up through the ranks that I think we're seeing the next generation, and I love that. And I love that we're getting to be here to mentor them. And I hope that I'm like Mary, I'm a mentor, and if anybody needs any help along the way, feel free to give me a call. I would love to help you.
Thank you, Mindy. And I love that you have Roma behind your back written on your whiteboard.
Oh, that's because I'm supposed to be doing my Roma recertification project, and it keeps putting it's like it's staring me in the face. So
Thank you. All right. Connie Jordan she is the Head Start Director for CEFS EOC. So Connie, if you can unmute yourself, it's your time.
Okay, I want to thank you all for letting me speak today. I am a brand new Ccap, so I'm still on kind of cloud 9, knowing that I passed. So it was a very, very good experience for me, but it was a lot of hard work. I had worked, actually I'm still working for a CAP agency. I've worked there for about 17 years, and I've been the Head Start program director that whole entire time. So I know a lot about how to run a quality Head Start program, but I really didn't know a lot about community action, especially the history, and I didn't know a lot about all the other programs. And so this whole process really helped me to broaden my knowledge base. Even knowing more about the requirements for the board, even though I've sat probably in every single board meeting for 17 years, to know some of those standards and requirements of the board and why they're in place was really enlightening to me. And overall, getting the Ccap was, first of all, a recommitment to myself, to our agency, and also it was a commitment to community action as a calling. I still think constantly about all the articles and things that we studied about, but the whole process really changed me and how I look at my work and how I look at the agency and the mission and what community action is all about, because I do feel like we tend to be more service providing driven, and we're not really looking at what community action is all about. So that was really helped me to really change how I look at everything. We currently have a total of 5 people in our agency that have the Ccap, and I feel like it kind of links all of us together as management staff, so that we can continue to make sure that we're spreading and that knowledge and making sure that our community is going in the right direction. Was it hard for me? Yes, it was very hard. If you know anything about the Head Start program, there's all these requirements and regulations and everything that we have to follow, and especially with all of the COVID-19 issues going on, and trying to open our centers. And I was right in the middle of doing our baseline funding application, so there's never a good time. There was a couple times during this process that I had to meet with my supervisor so she's also a CCAP, so she could give me a little pep talk, a pep talk to keep me going, because I felt like at times I was so overwhelmed, I just didn't think I could do it. But I did it. There's never a good time to do it, so you just got to make that commitment. You just have to do it, because this journey will change your life. It changed my life, and I want to make sure that I'm spreading that word, and I'm out there for anybody that would need some help as well, because it's well worth it.
Thank you, Connie. All right. Well, I want to thank all of our panel, Mary and Lena, Mindy, and Connie, for sharing your perspectives on Ccap. And we'll continue here. We have a little bit more information to share with you as you launch your Ccap journey. Charles, do you want to discuss this?
If you need more information, as the screen says, if you want to have an individual plan and talk with me, I'll be offering this at the convention. I have for quite a few years. If you want a virtual one-on-one with me, if you would email me at the address on the screen, we can set up a convenient time to where we would it'd probably be through a Zoom platform, through Zoom. We would do a virtual one-on-one meeting, the result of which would be your individual Ccap plan. And this is actually the good time to be thinking about Ccap, because the study groups are forming, and we intend to have one in Illinois. The study group, and some of the panelists mentioned the study groups, I think maybe all of them did, that study groups are not a requirement of Ccap. They're intended to be a benefit. But we have statistics and can show you that there is a high positive correlation between participation in a study group and successfully completing the process. Although if you want to have it on your own and go it alone, you're certainly welcome to do that. So we're planning to have, if you want an individual plan and consult with me individually, that's how to do it. Now we went past the slide on, there it comes back, on our Zoom meetings. I usually do these face-to-face. What I do is face-to-face, but these are not usual times. And we finished up last year with the study group meetings were Zoom meetings, and this fall, the meetings will be Zoom meetings. End of the calendar year, we'll see where we stand about going back to face-to-face, whether we should do that or not. Nevertheless, the first Zoom meetings are set September 17th and October the 1st. Both are Thursdays from 10 to 12. And if you're interested in that, if you would give me your email address, I will see to it that you get the agenda and what to do to start, and the invitation to those meetings. So I hope you'll seriously consider Ccap and coming to the study groups and checking it out. We have about, what do we have, Christine? Do we have, what, about 6-7 minutes left?
We are doing just fine on time. We've got 7 minutes.
Okay, and we still want to have a little time for questions. But what we're going to do in the fall, a little bit of the mechanics of Ccap is a peer-driven program. You demonstrate to your peers you're proficient in the knowledge and practice of those 5 sets: history, vision, values, and ethics, management, leadership, and theories of poverty. There are 3 hurdles to clear in Ccap. How are your peers going to know whether or not you are sufficient in the knowledge and practice of these sets? They're going to look at you in 3 ways. First, you fill out a resume, a long resume. a long resume, your life's experiences. You get credit for your life's experiences. That's called a candidate data form. The second, they want to see a sample of your work. And if you score sufficiently individually and in combination on your resume and your work sample, you then qualify to sit for an examination. You have to pass a test. So your peers are going to look at you in three ways. They're going to look at your life experiences on the candidate data form. They're going to look at your sample of your work on the executive skills portfolio and your performance on the test. So what's being evaluated is on the candidate data form, what's being evaluated is your experience. On the portfolio, the work sample, what's being evaluated is your ability to practice our profession. And in the examination, what's being evaluated is knowledge. So in the fall, these 4 fall Zoom meetings will be talking about qualifying for the test. The first 2 meetings, the long resume, the candidate data form, and the last 2 meetings on the portfolio. Now there's more. There's more. There's homework. There's an ethics check. There's an understanding community action activity. There's show and tell, my show and tell. That's almost my favorite part, is show and tell. And a question and answer opportunity. But for me, what I want to do is be present as you transform, as you complete your journey. So that's kind of the plan, the upcoming plan. And Christine, that gives us just under 5 minutes if there are any questions.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? We did have one question that came in just asking about how long the exam was.
The exam is a 4-hour exam divided into 2 parts with a 15-minute break. It's a combination of objective and essay questions, and it's a pretty good test. As the panelists have mentioned to you, no one that ever takes the test thinks they pass the test. But over 90% of the people that do take the test pass the test on the first attempt, which says to me that by the time you get to that point, Ccap candidates, and it's probably true, you're probably better than you think you are. And Ccap candidates are striving for excellence. But you don't have to ace the test. You have to have a 70% on the test. So, but it's a 4-hour test with a 15-minute break in between 2 sections. And it's online. It's an online test.
Right. And then all the proctoring this year was done remotely as well.
That's a 1-year deal because of the virus. We'll see what happens next. But that was a 1-year that was for 1 year, and we're evaluating how that worked. It's not like it's not like an online test where you just get to take your test on the computer, and it's proctored. It's still proctored. We're still concerned with test security, but it was all online proctoring.
And I'll just mention, I was a proctor. I thought it went pretty smoothly. We've had another question. How do you enroll in the Ccap program?
You fill out there's an enrollment form on the partnership's website. Basically, you fill out some basic information about yourself. You get an executive director or board chair to sign off. You get a few letters of reference. You sign the code of ethics. And I guess it always comes down for money. You pay the fee. It's a graduated fee. The more candidates there are, the lower the fee. 1 candidate, $600. 2 candidates, if you have another $500, you get a second candidate plus a third one free. If a few $100s more, you get a fourth, you get a fifth one free. So The idea was the agency that wanted to put through their entire management team for less than, could do it for less than $2,000, maybe even 1,500 depending. We will cover the actual enrollment on Thursday, September 17th. But there are the enrollment forms are on the partnership's website. The path would be programs/initiatives, Ccap. That takes you to the Ccap homepage where there's information and forms.
Great, great. Thank you. I don't see any
You
other.
don't have to have enrolled to come to the first meeting. You don't have to enroll to come to any of the meetings. Just show up. We're going to start absolutely from the beginning. And the beginning will be a little bit more about the process and then how you enroll. And then we'll get started.
Okay, we've had another question come in. What is the deadline for enrollment?
You can enroll anytime. There is no deadline for enrollment, but there is a caveat. There are due dates for the long resume, the candidate data form, for the portfolio, and there's a specific date for the test. The due date for the candidate data form is Wednesday, the third Wednesday of January. And man, I don't want to say it wrong. I don't have my calendar here. But whatever the third Wednesday in January is when the candidate data form is due. And we only accept candidate data forms from candidates. So if you're interested in taking the exam in 2021, you would need to enroll and have submitted your candidate data form by the third Wednesday of January 2021.
And that's January 20th of 2021.
January 20th. Are you sure?
Well, Mike, that's what my calendar is telling me right now.
That is probably correct.
Okay.
You hate to get that date out there. And if
That's true.
And if this is being archived, we're talking about the next year now is 2021.
And then the next question is, when is the 2021 Ccap exam?
The Ccap exams are the third Wednesday in June. This year we pushed it back because of the virus to the third Wednesday in July. That's atypical. The 2021 exam is scheduled the third Wednesday in June, whatever the number of that day is.
The 16th.
16th.
All right. Are there any other questions?
Portfolio, this didn't come up. The portfolio is due the third Wednesday in February. That's the work sample.
Okay, and that day is the 17th of February. Right. Any other questions? Okay. I don't see any coming in. And there we had our question slide. We just want to acknowledge that the funding for this is from DCEO, the Office of Community Assistance. And want to really express my gratitude to Charles and to Mary, Lena, Mindy, and Connie for being a part of this today. I think it's I think you have caught a glimpse into the importance and the value of Ccap. I know that as a Ccap, I certainly learned so much and really reflect quite a bit and use of what I learned in Ccap in my work each day.
Thank you. And I enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of this. Our next webinar is September 16th at 10, ethnographic interviewing that will be featuring Melissa Creamer. She is the Assistant Director for Community Action Services with the Kendall County Health Department. This is a really exciting way, especially when you're working on your community needs assessment, to really dive in and get some great information. Also, there is a survey that will be launched at the conclusion of this webinar. If you don't fill it out immediately, you'll have it emailed to you within 24 hours, but we would appreciate your feedback. We want to hear from you. And I hope that in January, many of you who are on here are getting ready to submit all of your paperwork to become a Ccap. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. This is recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel, or if you'd like a copy of the recording sent to you, that can be done. Thank you so much and take care, everybody.
Thank you.